Her heart felt as if it were about to burst out of her chest. The hotel room door swung open, but it wasn't her husband who walked in. A stranger stepped inside, dressed in black from head to toe, and walked straight toward the wardrobe. His eyes were razor-sharp. Later, in the darkness of that wardrobe, he would lean close and whisper, "Choose. Scream now, and die slowly at your husband's hands. Or stay quiet and join my game so we can destroy him." Later, she would look back and think, "I never saw any of this coming." But that night, everything began. The wedding reception had finally ended, leaving behind nothing but exhaustion and silence. Just hours earlier, the grand ballroom downstairs had been overflowing with guests, blinding crystal chandeliers, and a roar of congratulations. Now, in the soft hush of their five-star hotel suite, the world felt far away. Anna stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at her own reflection in an ivory wedding gown. Her hijab was still perfectly pinned, decorated with tiny, sparkling beads that caught the warm, dim light of the room. She drew in a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heartbeat. This was the day she had waited for her entire life. The day she officially became the wife of Ryan, the man who had been her rock through her mother's illness and death 2 years ago, and then her father's fatal car accident last year. Her fingers rose to touch the gold wedding band circling her ring finger, and a shy smile spread across her face as she remembered how confidently Ryan had spoken his vows that morning in a single steady breath. He had looked so handsome, so devout, so utterly perfect in her eyes. He was everything she had ever imagined in a husband, a spiritual guide, a responsible partner, someone she believed would lead her and continue the legacy of her late father by helping her run the family company. In that moment, she truly felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She glanced around the honeymoon suite, red rose petals scattered across the bed, scented candles flickering in the corners of the room, filling the air with a warm, romantic fragrance. Suddenly, a playful idea bloomed in her mind. Ryan had gone down to the lobby for a few minutes to handle checkout arrangements for their relatives who were staying at the same hotel. It was the perfect chance to surprise him. She didn't want to greet him sitting primly on the bed like any typical bride. She wanted to confuse him a little, make him search for her. Chuckling softly, Anna lifted the heavy hem of her gown and tiptoed toward the large walk-in wardrobe tucked in the corner. It was spacious enough to hide her behind a neat row of suits and dresses. Carefully, she slipped inside, pressing herself behind a cluster of thick coats, making sure her petite body was fully hidden while leaving just a narrow gap between the wardrobe doors so she could peek out. Her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from excitement. She pictured Ryan walking in, panicking when he didn't see her, calling her name. Then she would jump out, throw her arms around him from behind, and laugh at his startled reaction. She held her breath and focused, straining her ears to catch every sound from outside. Minutes passed in silence, stretching longer and longer. Then she finally heard it. The faint beep of the keycard against the door lock, followed by the click of the handle turning. A huge grin tugged at Anna's lips in the dark wardrobe. Footsteps entered the room, firm and heavy, echoing on the marble floor before softening on the thick carpet. She counted silently in her head, ready to burst out and shout, "Surprise!" But her body froze mid-movement. Through the narrow gap in the doors, she could see the man who had entered. It wasn't Ryan. The figure walking into the room wore a black leather jacket, dark jeans, and a cap pulled low over his face. His posture was straight and strong, but his build was clearly different from her husband's. A cold wave of dread shot through Anna's veins, washing away the joy that had been bubbling in her chest moments earlier. Was this a thief? Was he going to hurt her? She clamped both hands over her mouth, forcing herself to stay silent, barely daring to breathe. Maybe, she prayed, he would just grab something from the dresser and leave. That hope shattered when he didn't move toward the bed or the dressing table. Instead, after calmly locking the door and securing the safety chain, he turned and walked directly toward the wardrobe. His gaze was so sharp it felt like he could see straight through the wooden doors and into her hiding place. Anna trembled uncontrollably as tears of terror pooled in her eyes. She wanted to scream for help, but the sound died in her throat. His footsteps grew louder, closer, until his hand shot out and yanked the wardrobe doors wide open. Anna recoiled, stumbling backward until her spine hit the back wall. She opened her mouth to shriek, but the man raised his index finger to his lips, signaling her to be quiet. Under the wardrobe light, she could finally see his face clearly. Hard features, a strong jaw, and a small scar near his left temple. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Ian. He wasn't holding a knife or any kind of weapon. In fact, the only thing in his hand was a smartphone. His eyes were not filled with lust or cruelty, but with a cold, urgent focus. Without saying a word, he raised the phone, turned the screen toward her, and tapped play on a voice recording app. The volume was turned all the way up. The voice that suddenly filled the wardrobe was so clear it felt as though the speaker was standing right beside them. Anna recognized it instantly. It was Ryan. Ryan, the man who just that morning had promised to love and protect her for the rest of his life. In the recording, he was laughing, a carefree, mocking laugh she had never heard from him before. It sounded cruel, almost gleeful. Then he began to speak. "Finally married," he said. "Honestly, I almost threw up having to act sweet and saintly in front of that woman for the last 2 years. You have no idea how exhausting it is pretending to pray on time, listening to lectures about virtue just to earn her trust." A woman's voice cut in, one Anna also recognized. Zoe, the woman Ryan had introduced as his distant, orphaned cousin, the one he often helped out. In the recording, Zoe's tone was coy and flirtatious, nothing like the demure politeness she showed Anna. "Be patient, baby," she purred. "Remember, this is for our future. You only have to hold on a little longer." Ryan's voice came again, darker now, dripping with malice. "Don't worry. After tonight, she's officially mine, which means her money is one step closer to being ours. My plan is ready. In 3 months, I'll have her completely unhinged. I'll mess with her mind slowly. Remember, her mother died from severe depression. I'll use that. I'll make her believe she inherited her mother's insanity." His voice continued coldly, methodically. "I'll slip medicine into her drinks to give her hallucinations until everyone thinks she's unfit to run the company. Once the signing authority is transferred to me, I'll drain everything. Then I'll divorce her and throw her into a mental institution. After that, we can live comfortably in Europe." Anna's world collapsed in an instant. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor among the shoes lining the bottom of the wardrobe. Her face drained of color until she looked almost as pale as a burial shroud. Every word of that recording stabbed into her chest sharper than any blade. Her husband, the man she had trusted more than anyone, was a monster. And Zoe, the woman she had welcomed like a sister, was his lover and co-conspirator. They had planned all of this. They had planned her destruction even before the wedding vows were spoken. Her stomach churned with nausea, a violent mix of disgust and heartbreak. Images of her late mother's sad eyes during the final years of her depression flashed through her mind, and now Ryan wanted to use that suffering as a weapon. Ian stopped the recording right as Ryan and Zoe's cruel laughter overlapped. Sliding the phone back into his jacket pocket, he looked at Anna, who was sobbing silently, her shoulders shaking as she tried to contain her cries. He crouched down to her level, keeping a respectful distance, but his gaze was intense, almost demanding. Before he could speak, a new sound echoed from the hallway outside, footsteps approaching, accompanied by a cheerful little hum. The real Ryan had returned from the lobby. The footsteps stopped directly in front of the door. The handle rattled, but the door didn't open because the safety chain was still latched. A knock followed. "Honey, why is it locked from the inside? Are you changing?" Ryan's voice floated through the door, warm and affectionate, the same tone that had once made Anna's heart melt. Now it sounded like a snake's hiss. Ian locked eyes with her, his gaze sharp and unwavering. In a low but firm whisper, he said, "You have 2 choices. First, you can scream right now, cause a scene, and confront him tonight. But without physical proof and mental preparation, he'll twist everything. He'll say this recording is fake. He'll say you're hysterical from wedding stress. His plan to make you look insane will start even sooner, and you'll die slowly in his hands." He paused, letting the weight of that warning sink in. Ryan knocked again, louder this time, though his voice still sounded patient. "Anna, sweetheart, open the door." Ian leaned closer and continued. "Second option, you stay quiet, wipe your tears, walk out of this wardrobe and act like nothing happened. Play along with him, for now. Be the wife he expects tonight. Let him believe he's winning. Meanwhile, I'll help you plan a counterattack. We'll destroy him the way he planned to destroy you. Choose now, Anna, scream and lose, or stay silent and win." Anna stared at him, her vision blurred by tears. Beneath the raw pain in her gaze, a small spark of fury began to kindle. She thought of her parents, the company her father had built with blood and sweat. She couldn't let a bastard like Ryan steal it and trample her family's honor. She dragged in a deep breath and wiped her tears roughly with the back of her hand. She met Ian's eyes and gave a small, decisive nod. She would fight. Forcing herself to move, she steadied her trembling hands and rose to her feet. Ian's eyes flicked toward the bathroom and he jerked his chin, signaling her to go wash her face. Silently, he slipped toward the balcony doors, pulling aside the heavy curtains just enough to step out. Before disappearing onto the balcony, he looked back one last time, his gaze saying clearly, "Be strong." Anna hurried into the bathroom, turned the tap on full blast to mask any stray sounds, and splashed cold water over her face again and again. It cooled the burning on her cheeks, but could not quench the fire raging in her chest. She stared at her reflection, red-rimmed eyes, fragile shoulders, and dusted powder over her skin to disguise the traces of tears. "I can do this," she told herself. "For Mom, for Dad. I'll be the best actress he's ever seen." Outside, Ryan's voice grew more impatient. Anna shut off the water, walked out and crossed the room. Her hand shook slightly as she slid the chain free and opened the door. Ryan stood there, smiling broadly, his perfect white teeth on display. He was still wearing his tailored wedding suit, looking like the ideal groom to anyone who didn't know the rot inside him. "Sorry," Anna said softly. "I was in the bathroom. I didn't hear you knocking." Her voice sounded rough, but she tried to make it pass as simple fatigue. Ryan stepped inside and closed the door, spreading his arms to embrace her. "Ah, that explains it. I thought you'd fallen asleep, baby. Don't lock it again, okay? We're allowed to be alone now," he teased, chuckling as he pulled her into his arms. The moment their bodies touched, Anna had to fight the urge to recoil. The expensive cologne she used to adore now felt cloying and suffocating. His embrace, once a source of comfort, felt like a constricting snake coiling around her ribs. She shut her eyes, held her breath, and let him hug her while her arms hung stiffly at her sides. Luckily, Ryan was too wrapped up in his own ego to notice. "Why are you shaking? Are you cold?" he asked, pulling back to look at her, his fingers brushing her cheek. His touch made her skin crawl. "The AC's really strong," she lied, forcing a weak smile. She stepped back under the pretense of getting a drink. Ryan accepted that easily enough. "All right, go sit on the sofa for a bit. I'll change out of this suit. I'm roasting in this thing," he said, walking casually to the wardrobe, the same wardrobe where she had just been hiding with a stranger. Anna's heart clenched as she watched Ryan swing the wardrobe doors open. But Ian was gone. The wardrobe was empty. Her gaze flicked to the balcony curtains, which swayed faintly with the night breeze coming through a slightly open door. While Ryan fussed with hangers and shirts, she settled on the sofa, her eyes drifting to the bedside table. Ryan's phone lay there, screen lit up with a new notification. Carefully, she glanced back at him. He was facing away, rifling through his clothes. Anna edged closer to the table and peered at the screen. Her heart nearly stopped. A new message glowed from a contact named Zoe Cousin. The content, however, was anything but familial. "Good luck acting tonight, hubby. Don't forget your vitamins so you're strong enough for the night shift. Love you." A red heart emoji completed the insult. Heat rose behind Anna's eyes. Hubby, as if he were already hers. The message was a knife twisting deeper into the wound opened by Ian's recording. There was no room left for doubt. This marriage, the sacred vows spoken that morning, Ryan's tears when he begged her parents' blessing at their graves. It was all a show. She clenched the fabric of her gown so tightly her knuckles turned white. Rage began to simmer under the surface of her forced calm, but she remembered Ian's words, "Stay silent and win." Ryan turned, now wearing a casual t-shirt. He caught her looking at his phone. "Something wrong? Call?" he asked, a hint of wariness in his tone as he hurried over to grab it. Anna lifted her head, her face smoothed into practiced innocence. "No, it just lit up for a second. Probably the family group chat," she replied flatly. Ryan checked his screen. Anna caught the flicker of a sly smile before he quickly tucked the phone into his pocket. "Yeah, just my cousins," he said lightly. Then he sat down beside her and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. The rest of the night was a special kind of torment. Ryan rambled about their future, their honeymoon plans, how deeply he loved her. Every declaration of love sounded like garbage in her ears. She claimed she was on her period and utterly exhausted, using it to avoid further physical intimacy. Ryan looked disappointed, but switched smoothly into the role of understanding husband. "It's okay, baby. We have our whole lives together." "Just rest," he murmured, kissing her forehead. The kiss burned like acid on her skin. Eventually, he fell into a deep, steady sleep. His soft snoring filled the room while Anna lay beside him, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. She turned away from him, tears silently soaking into the pillow. In the darkness, her hand slid between the sofa cushions. Before Ian left, she had seen him slip something there. Her fingers brushed stiff cardboard, a business card. Slowly, so as not to wake Ryan, she pulled it out and hid it in her fist. She waited through the long hours of the night, watching the faint light of dawn creep in around the curtains. The next morning, while Ryan showered, singing cheerfully under the water, Anna finally had a moment alone. She unfolded the black card. Silver letters shone against the dark surface. No company name, just Ian, private investigator, and a phone number. She glanced toward the bathroom door where the man she now saw as her enemy was humming behind the glass. Her expression hardened into something entirely new. The naive, sheltered girl had died last night, murdered by betrayal. In her place stood a woman, ready to go to war for her dignity. Anna grabbed her own phone, stepped into the new walk-in wardrobe where she had hidden the night before, and, hands trembling but resolve unshakable, she typed a message to the number on the card. "This is Anna. Teach me how to destroy them. I want them to suffer more than I ever imagined." She hit send, then immediately deleted the conversation from her phone. Walking out of the wardrobe with her head held high, she knew one thing for certain. The war had only just begun. A week passed after that wedding night from hell. To outsiders, Anna and Ryan's marriage looked picture perfect. Their home, a luxurious estate left to Anna by her parents, seemed like the setting of a glossy magazine spread. They appeared harmonious, affectionate, endlessly supportive. But behind those walls, a carefully staged performance was underway. Anna had become an extraordinary actress. Every morning, she forced herself to smile sweetly when Ryan came down for breakfast. She let his filthy hands touch her, allowed him to stroke her hair, listened as he called her baby with that same gentle tone. The disgust never faded. It thickened daily, fueling the hatred that kept her alert and sane. That particular morning, sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows overlooking the back garden, casting a warm glow over the dining room. Ryan sat at the far end of the table, devouring fried rice cooked by the housekeeper. Anna, seated closer to the center, listlessly stirred her bowl of porridge. Ryan set his spoon down and watched her with eyes he tried to make look tender. It was the same manipulative gaze that once charmed her. "What's wrong, love? Why are you just stirring your food?" he asked in a concerned tone, reaching out to take her limp hand. Anna's stomach twisted as their skin touched. She inhaled slowly, arranging her face into a troubled, fragile expression, exactly as she and Ian had planned. "I've been dizzy a lot lately," she said weakly. "Maybe it's from dealing with all of Dad's paperwork. It feels so heavy." Ryan's lips curled into a barely there smile, a flicker of triumph he didn't realize she could see. "See? I told you not to push yourself, sweetheart. Your mental health has to come first. Remember, your mom was always anxious and overwhelmed before she got really sick. I don't want you ending up like her." Hearing him casually drag her late mother into his scheme made Anna's blood boil, but she swallowed her rage and nodded as if his words were sinking in. "You're right," she whispered. "I'm terrified I'll end up like Mom." That afternoon, Anna asked permission to go out, claiming she needed a salon day to relax her mind. Ryan, believing this meant she was letting her guard down, agreed readily. He thought she was returning to her old, frivolous self, more interested in pampering than business. But Anna didn't go to her usual salon. Instead, she ordered a rideshare, switched cars halfway, and took a convoluted route to make sure no one followed. Her destination was a small cafe on the outskirts of town, tucked away from prying eyes. Ian was already there, sitting in the darkest corner, wearing a baseball cap and a flannel shirt. When Anna sat down across from him, there were no pleasantries. He slid a thick brown envelope onto the table, his expression grave. "This is the follow-up investigation you asked for," he said quietly. "I re-examined your father's car accident from last year. The police wrote it off as a single-vehicle crash caused by brake failure. My instincts said otherwise." Anna's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were photos of the twisted wreckage of her father's car, and beneath them several banking documents. Her breath hitched when she saw the numbers. "Those are transaction records," Ian explained, pointing at the lines of figures. 2 days before your father's accident, there was a large transfer from Ryan's personal account to a man named Jared. He's a former mechanic with a criminal record. The date lines up exactly with the deadline for one of Ryan's online gambling debts, several $100,000. Tears blurred Anna's vision as she read. "You mean Ryan paid someone to tamper with the brakes?" Ian nodded grimly. "Your father had refused to lend him money to cover those debts." Ryan panicked. He was being chased by debt collectors. The quickest way to get cash and control over the inheritance was to get rid of your dad and marry you as soon as possible. He killed your father, Anna. This isn't just cheating or greed. It's premeditated murder." Tears spilled down Anna's cheeks, bringing back the raw ache of losing her father, now laced with a fury so intense it made her chest feel too tight. The man she slept beside every night had murdered her father. Her hands clenched into fists so hard that her nails dug into her palms. "I'm going to kill him," she hissed. "I want to kill him with my own hands." "No," Ian cut in sharply. "If you kill him now, you're the one who'll go to prison. Zoe will walk free and might still enjoy whatever assets he's already moved around. We have to do this smart. We'll make them lose everything, their money, their reputation, their freedom. Then they can rot in prison for life. That's justice." Anna wiped her tears roughly and forced herself to breathe steadily. "You're right," she said. "Death would be too easy for him. He needs to live in hell first." That evening, Anna's patience was tested again. When she came home, she found Ryan sitting in the living room with Zoe. Seeing that woman on her mother's favorite sofa made Anna want to scream and throw her out. But she remembered her role. "Hey, honey, you're back," Ryan said brightly, as if everything were normal. "You remember Zoe, right? My distant cousin from the wedding. Her landlord kicked her out over a rent dispute. She's all alone in the city. I told her she could stay here for a while. The house is huge and half the rooms are empty anyway." Zoe stood, putting on a flawlessly pleading expression. "I'm so sorry to impose, Anna," she said softly. "I didn't know where else to go. Ryan's the only family I have here." Anna studied her. "Beautiful. dressed a little too tightly for modesty but always trying to look respectful. Behind that sweet face, Anna knew there was a snake ready to strike. She forced herself to smile warmly. "Oh, please don't be silly, Zoe. Make yourself at home. I get lonely when Ryan's at work. Having someone to talk to will be nice." Ryan and Zoe exchanged a quick, satisfied glance. Their plan to bring Zoe into the house had worked flawlessly, or so they thought. They didn't realize Anna welcomed this development. Keeping her enemies under the same roof would make it far easier to watch them. That very night, while Ryan and Zoe chatted on the back patio, Anna slipped into Ryan's office and the living room. She took out several tiny spy cameras disguised as buttons that Ian had given her. Efficiently, she hid them in strategic spots, behind a painting in the living room, among books in the office, and in the sleek, spotless kitchen. Each camera fed directly to a secret phone Anna had purchased separately. Before going to bed, she checked the live feeds. The image from the kitchen showed Ryan preparing tea. He was making the herbal tea Anna usually drank, but his movements were suspicious. After glancing around to make sure no one was watching, he pulled a small packet from his pocket and sprinkled a white powder into her cup, stirring until it dissolved. His face was cold and focused, a far cry from his usual loving husband act. Anna recorded everything. She now had her first proof of attempted poisoning. She stared at the screen with a chilling calm. "Go ahead. Mix your poison, Ryan. Not a single drop will ever touch my lips." The next morning, the scent of jasmine herbal tea drifted through the master bedroom. Ryan entered carrying a tray with a steaming cup and a plate of toast. He set it carefully on the bedside table, moving with exaggerated tenderness, as though serving a queen. Anna was already awake, pretending to lounge sleepily under the covers, watching him intently. She knew exactly what lurked in that pretty floral cup. "Good morning, my beautiful wife," Ryan said softly, sitting at the edge of the bed and stroking her arm. His face glowed with kindness, his perfect husband mask flawless. "Come on, have some breakfast. I made you special herbal tea. It's a new recipe my doctor friend gave me. Great for calming the nerves and preventing depression, so you don't end up like your mom." Again, he dragged her mother into his lies. Anna had to resist the urge to hurl the tea in his face. His strategy was vile. Use her fear of mental illness to make her willingly drink poison. She pushed herself up and leaned against the headboard, wearing a tired, confused expression. "Thank you. You're so thoughtful," she rasped. She took the cup. The warmth seeped into her hands, but her heart felt like ice. She raised it to her lips and inhaled. The jasmine scent was strong, but beneath it she caught a faint chemical smell. Ryan watched her intently, eyes unblinking, waiting for the poison to cross her throat. She knew she couldn't refuse, or he would grow suspicious. She had to be clever. She touched the rim of the cup to her lips, pretending to sip. Abruptly she coughed, as if she'd burned her tongue. "Too hot," she complained, pulling it away. "Careful, baby. Take it slow," he said, a note of impatience hiding under his concern. At that moment his phone alarm chimed loudly from the dressing table. Ryan turned his head. In that split second, Anna tipped most of the tea into the large planter beside the bed, where a snake plant grew in a pot full of stones and soil. The soil soaked up the liquid quickly, leaving little visible trace. By the time Ryan turned back, she was raising the cup to her mouth again. She mimed a final sip, then set the now nearly empty cup back on the tray. "It tastes a little strange. Kind of bitter," she commented, feeding him the line. Ryan grinned with relief at the empty cup. "That's how you know the herbs are working. You'll get used to it. Now go shower and get ready. You've got that shareholders meeting today, remember? You need to look sharp. Shareholders meeting." Anna had almost forgotten. Ryan was clearly counting on the drug making her appear unstable in front of investors. Instead, she decided to give him the show he wanted, but on her own terms. Over the next few days, she began deliberately acting like a woman losing her grip on reality. In front of Zoe, she forgot where she had put things she had just set down. She intentionally called Zoe by the housekeeper's name, then apologized with a confused frown. 3 nights later, at dinner, she dropped her plate on purpose and screamed, claiming she'd seen a dark shadow in the corner. There was, of course, nothing there. Ryan and Zoe rushed to her side, pretending to panic and comfort her. Behind her back, the spy camera caught them sharing smug, conspiratorial smiles. "The meds are working faster than we thought," Ryan whispered to Zoe, as Anna pretended to sleep afterward. Still, beneath the act, Anna continued her mission. Ian told her that Zoe kept a hidden safe in her old apartment, still rented under someone else's name, where she stored important documents, fake passports and, most importantly, Ryan's true identity. His real name was Henry Bates, a fugitive in another state on fraud charges from 5 years earlier. This evidence was their trump card. The chance came on a Friday. Zoe announced she was going to spend the day at the salon, while Ryan went golfing with business partners, a meeting Anna and Ian had already arranged to turn into a financial trap. Anna claimed she had a terrible headache and planned to sleep all day. As soon as Zoe's car left the driveway, Anna sprang from bed, dressed in black, pulled on a mask and cap, and slipped out the back door where Ian's hired car was waiting. The drive to Zoe's apartment felt endless. Anna's heart hammered. She was about to break into someone's home for the first time in her life, but she didn't care. For justice, she was willing to cross any line. Using a duplicate access card Ian had obtained, she slipped inside the building. Zoe's unit on the 15th floor was quiet and dusty. Anna entered cautiously, turning on a small flashlight instead of the main lights. She went straight to the bedroom, searching the built-in wardrobe where Ian said the safe would be hidden. Sure enough, behind a stack of old clothes, she found a small metal safe. She pressed Ian's code-cracking device against the keypad. Numbers flickered on the little screen as it cycled through combinations. 1 minute, 2. Sweat trickled down Anna's temples. "Come on," she begged silently. A soft beep sounded, and the light on the safe turned green. The door popped open. Inside were neat stacks of cash, gold jewelry, and most importantly, a plastic folder. Anna opened it. There was a passport bearing Ryan's face, but under the name Henry Bates, a fake driver's license, and a marriage certificate showing a quiet wedding between Ryan and Zoe 2 years ago, long before he married Anna. Proof that her own marriage had been built on a lie from day one. She quickly photographed everything with her phone, then stuffed the original documents into her backpack. She was about to leave when she heard the beep of the apartment door opening. Someone had used the access card. Anna's blood ran cold. Zoe. Why was she back so soon? She was supposed to be at the salon all day. Panic surged. There was no other exit except the front door, and the windows were sealed and far too high to jump from. Footsteps moved through the unit. Zoe's voice drifted down the hallway, irritated and sharp as she spoke on the phone. "Yeah, the salon closed suddenly for renovations. Total joke. I'm just grabbing a change of clothes at the old place and checking on my things," she told Ryan. The bedroom door opened. Anna was trapped. She scanned the room desperately for somewhere to hide and saw only one option, the wardrobe itself. Heart pounding, she closed the safe door, now empty but for the cash and jewelry, and slipped into the other section of the wardrobe, burying herself behind a row of thick coats. She pulled the doors almost shut, leaving the tiniest crack. A suffocating déjà vu washed over her. She was back inside a wardrobe, hiding from someone who wanted to ruin her life. Only this time it was Zoe, and if she was caught, Zoe might very well kill her. Zoe's heels clicked across the floor as she entered, tossing her purse onto the bed. She was still on the phone. "Yeah, I'm in the bedroom now," she said to Ryan. "Hey, are you sure Anna actually drank the meds this morning? Sometimes I swear her eyes still look too focused when she zones out." Anna held her breath until her lungs burned. Through the narrow crack, she saw Zoe moving closer to the wardrobe. "I'm grabbing my red leather jacket. I think I left it here," Zoe said. Her hand reached for the wardrobe handle. Anna squeezed the pepper spray in her pocket, fingers clenched so tightly around it that her knuckles turned white. If Zoe opened the door, she would have to strike first. The handle began to turn. Sweat soaked Anna's back. Everything in her body coiled for a fight that might end very badly. At that exact moment, A shrill alarm blasted through the building. The fire alarm shrieked at maximum volume, making the walls shake with its piercing wail. Zoe yelped in surprise, jerking her hand away from the wardrobe. She staggered backward, clapping her hands over her ears. A recorded announcement followed, instructing all residents to evacuate via the stairwells due to heavy smoke detected on the 15th floor. Of course, there was no smoke. Ian had hacked the building's security system and triggered a false alarm right on cue. Panic flashed across Zoe's features. She grabbed her handbag, completely forgetting about the jacket, and hurried out, slamming the bedroom door and then the apartment door as she rushed for the stairs. Anna listened to Zoe's footsteps fade and the front door click shut. Only then did she allow herself to exhale. Her whole body sagged among the hanging coats. Ian had saved her again. There was no time to waste. She grabbed her backpack, pulled on her mask and cap, and slipped out of the unit. The hallway was chaotic, filled with other residents streaming toward the stairwell. The confusion was the perfect cover for Anna. Blending into the crowd, she hurried down the stairs and out of the building, then slipped into a side street where Ian's black car was waiting with the engine running. As soon as she climbed in, she handed him the backpack. He checked the contents and nodded with satisfaction. "Fake passports, secret marriage certificate, real ID as Henry Bates," he said. "This is nuclear ammunition, Anna. We can put them behind bars whenever we want. But as you asked, we won't stop there. We're going to bankrupt them first." Anna nodded, her eyes burning with resolve. She didn't just want legal punishment. She wanted their greed to eat itself alive. In the days that followed, Anna launched a quiet financial war. As the sole heir and legal owner of her father's company, now called Kingsley Corporation, she had access to key accounts Ryan didn't even know existed. Guided by her father's loyal financial advisor, she began moving liquid assets, cash deposits, bonds, into secure offshore accounts out of Ryan's reach. She did it in small, careful transfers, just enough each time to avoid triggering any alerts Ryan might monitor. At the same time, she prepared a trap tailored to his greed. She knew he was desperate for cash to pay off the remaining gambling debts and to maintain his lavish lifestyle with Zoe. With Ian's help, she fabricated a highly polished investment proposal for a fake luxury real estate project in a remote, up-and-coming part of Colorado. The documents looked impeccable. Glossy brochures, forged land titles, promises of threefold returns in 6 months. In reality, the land referenced was protected forest where no development was allowed. Ian arranged for the proposal to reach Ryan through a bribed intermediary in the business world. One evening, Ryan came home practically glowing with excitement, a folder tucked under his arm. He brought it straight to their bedroom. "Look at this," he said, dropping onto the bed beside Anna, who was pretending to brush her hair absently. "I got an incredible offer today, a gold mine. We could triple our money in half a year. I just need your signature as majority shareholder to release some company funds. This is a great way to grow your dad's legacy." Anna accepted the documents with a dazed expression, as though her mind were elsewhere. She glanced over them slowly, then looked at Ryan. "Are you sure it's a good idea?" she asked, injecting her voice with hesitant dependence. "Of course I am," he urged. "I've checked everything. You trust me, don't you?" Finally, she picked up the pen he handed her and signed, not with her usual signature, but with a slightly altered version, a detail Ian had advised so she could later claim it had been forged or signed under duress. Ryan never noticed. He was too busy imagining the millions he believed were headed for his personal accounts. He didn't realize the money he thought he was funneling to the developers would in fact disappear into accounts controlled by Ian's team, leaving him alone to answer for the misappropriated corporate funds. The next step in Anna's plan was to fracture the alliance between Ryan and Zoe. She knew that relationships built on crime are inherently fragile. There is no real trust where betrayal is a shared language. One afternoon, Zoe was sitting in the family room, lazily painting her nails. Anna sat down beside her, looking distracted, as if bothered by something she couldn't quite understand. "Zoe?" she said softly. Zoe glanced over, slightly annoyed. "Yeah, Anna, what's up?" Anna stared at her with wide, innocent eyes. Ryan's been talking in his sleep again. He does that a lot lately, but last night was really strange. He said, "Once the money comes through, I have to get rid of Zoe as fast as possible. She knows too much. She's dangerous. I'd rather marry Clara. It'll be easier." "Do you know who Clara is?" Zoe's face went rigid. The nail polish brush nearly slipped from her fingers. Clara was the name of Ryan's ex, the one Zoe had always been most jealous of. She forced a shaky laugh. "You must have misheard. That doesn't sound like him. He sleeps really soundly," she protested weakly. Anna shook her head slowly, frowning as though genuinely confused. "No, I'm sure. He said he was sick of being controlled by Zoe and wanted his freedom. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. It was probably just a dream." She stood and walked away, leaving Zoe sitting there, cheeks flushed with anger and fear. The poison of doubt had been poured. Paranoid and possessive, Zoe swallowed it whole. That night, Anna watched on her hidden cameras as Zoe confronted Ryan in the guest room. Zoe accused him of plotting to dump her for Clara. Ryan, completely in the dark about Anna's little story, exploded at her for being irrational. They screamed at each other, hurling accusations back and forth. Zoe stormed out, slamming the door, while Ryan kicked a chair over in frustration. From her own bedroom, Anna watched the scene on her phone with a cold smile. Cracks had appeared in their partnership. When enemies turn on each other, it is always an advantage. For the first time in weeks, she slept deeply and peacefully. Meanwhile, Ryan's growing impatience pushed him toward his final plan. His fierce arguments with Zoe, combined with debt collectors and mounting financial pressure, made him desperate to gain total control of Kingsley Corporation. He couldn't wait 3 months as originally planned. He wanted Anna declared legally incompetent immediately so her signing authority would pass to him. One morning, he set his last manipulative act in motion. He deliberately smashed Anna's late mother's favorite vase, then claimed that Anna had done it during a violent episode. When she walked in, he launched into the scene, raising his voice, accusing her of mood swings and irrational outbursts. Anna, prepared for exactly this, collapsed into a performance of hysterical grief. She screamed, sobbed, curled up in a corner calling out for her mother. The house staff who witnessed the scene looked truly shaken and sympathetic. Seeing the opportunity, Ryan called his lawyer and a psychiatrist he'd paid to deliver a false diagnosis. "Doctor, my wife's episode is worse than ever," he said on the phone, feigning panic. "She's a danger to herself and others. I need a formal evaluation today to file for guardianship." His eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction as he watched Anna crying on the floor. But Ryan didn't know that Ian had been intercepting his calls for a week. The private investigator knew exactly which Dr. Ryan was calling. Ian arranged for that doctor to be delayed by a staged traffic incident, blocking the route with a fake accident that created a massive jam. Instead, Ian sent in a different psychiatrist, Dr. Sterling, an ethical, well-respected professional, accompanied by 2 nurses from a reputable psychiatric hospital, making the visit look official and beyond question. The doorbell rang. Ryan rushed to open it, expecting his bought and paid-for psychiatrist. Instead, a stranger stood there, a calm man in a white coat. "Sorry, who are you? I was expecting Dr. Brown," Ryan said sharply. Dr. Sterling smiled politely and showed his ID. "I'm Dr. Sterling, a psychiatrist from the Central Hospital. Dr. Brown was in a minor accident and asked me to take over, especially since this is an emergency. I brought everything needed for a full evaluation." Ryan hesitated. His carefully scripted plan could fall apart without his insider doctor, but he felt cornered. The lawyer and a notary were already on their way. If he cancelled now, he'd lose momentum, and he was convinced the drugs would make Anna appear obviously unhinged to any doctor. Whatever was in that white powder, he thought, it couldn't fail. Convinced of his advantage, he forced a smile and stepped aside. "Of course, doctor. Please come in. My wife is upstairs. She's very unstable." The evaluation took place in the master bedroom. Ryan, Zoe, and the lawyer stayed in the room as witnesses. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, her hair messy, eyes unfocused. Dr. Sterling sat across from her, pressing the record button on his device and opening his file. Ryan crossed his arms, watching from the corner with barely contained glee. "It's over," he thought. "Soon everything will be mine." "Can you hear me clearly, Mrs. Kingsley?" Dr. Sterling asked gently. Anna kept her head bowed, rocking slightly. He began with basic questions to test her orientation to time, place, and reality, expecting erratic, confused answers based on Ryan's descriptions. But something unexpected happened. Slowly, Anna lifted her head. The rocking stopped. Her gaze cleared, sharpening into steady focus. She smoothed her hair back with an elegant motion, then met the doctor's eyes with the calm composure of someone completely sane. "Yes, doctor. I can hear you perfectly," she replied. Her voice was steady, confident, and authoritative. Ryan's jaw dropped. Zoe stared at her in shock. The room fell utterly silent. Dr. Sterling, surprised by the drastic shift, continued professionally. "Do you know what day it is and where we are?" he asked. "Of course," Anna said. "It's Tuesday the 25th. We're in my home in the master bedroom. And the pale man in the corner with the panicked face is my husband Ryan, who looks disappointed that I can answer your questions." She tilted her head slightly toward Ryan. He lurched forward. "Doctor, she's faking. That's part of her illness. She was screaming and hysterical earlier. Ask her harder questions. She hallucinates." "I swear," he insisted. Dr. Sterling raised a hand, signaling him to be quiet. "Let me do my job, Mr. Kingsley." He proceeded with more complex logical tasks, math problems, and short-term memory tests. Anna answered everything with ease, solving arithmetic in seconds and recounting the day's events in clear, chronological order. Her reasoning was flawless. The longer the examination went on, the redder Ryan's face became, sweat beading on his forehead. How was this possible? He knew he'd been dosing her for weeks. The drugs should have scrambled her mind. Why was she so lucid? Zoe began to tremble beside him, sensing the tide turning. After nearly an hour, Dr. Sterling closed his file. He stood and faced Ryan. "Mr. Kingsley, based on my thorough evaluation, your wife is in excellent mental health. There are no signs of depression, psychosis, or delusional disorders as you described. Her awareness is fully intact, and her cognitive functions are above average. She is entirely competent." "That's impossible," Ryan blurted. "She's been taking medication." He caught himself too late. "What medication?" Dr. Sterling asked sharply. Ryan stammered. "I mean a herbal supplement. Something to calm her down," he said quickly. The doctor shook his head. "Whatever she's been taking, it hasn't caused any mental impairment. I'll issue a formal statement declaring her mentally fit and fully capable of managing her own affairs. There is no medical basis for any guardianship request." Ryan's world shattered. His entire plan collapsed before his eyes. He stared at Anna, stunned, rage and fear swirling in his gaze. Anna rose gracefully, smoothing her clothes, and walked toward him. Her steps were slow and deliberate, like a lioness approaching cornered prey. Dr. Sterling and the lawyer gathered their things and stepped outside, giving the couple privacy. Zoe edged toward the door, ready to flee. Anna stopped directly in front of Ryan. She leaned in, bringing her lips close to his ear. In a soft, almost affectionate whisper that cut to the bone, she said, "Your tea was a bit bitter. So from the very first day you made it, I've been pouring it into the plant pot and replacing it with regular tea. The only thing poisoned in this room is that poor snake plant in the corner, not me." Ryan went white as a sheet. His legs went weak, nearly giving out underneath him. He stared at her as if she were a ghost. "So this whole time," Anna said with a sweet, terrifying smile, "I've been acting, and you were my easiest audience. Enjoy your downfall, Ryan." She turned and walked out with her head held high. As she left the room, police sirens grew louder in the distance. Ian had already filed charges regarding the fake investment scheme. The hallucination trap Ryan had prepared for her had become the grave he dug for himself. That night, A grand ballroom at a five-star hotel glittered under crystal chandeliers for Kingsley Corporation's anniversary gala. White roses and blue silk ribbons decorated every corner. VIP guests, major investors, senior police officials, and national media filled the room, here to celebrate the company's success under its second-generation leadership. But beneath the glamour, a taut tension clung to the air. Anna stood at the ballroom entrance, greeting guests with a poised, enigmatic smile. She wore a deep ocean blue evening gown with a matching satin hijab, radiating power and serenity. Beside her, Ryan stood in a brand new black tuxedo, his handshake firm, his smile practiced. Sweat, however, soaked the back of his shirt. Ever since the psychiatric evaluation, he'd been walking on shards of glass. Anna had neither thrown him out nor had him arrested immediately. She had simply gone quiet, forcing him to attend this gala as the CEO, preserving the company's image. That silence terrified him more than any confrontation. Across the room, Zoe clutched a drink with shaking hands. She wore a bright red dress that clashed with the event's dress code, earning disapproving looks from several guests. Rumors about her freeloading presence in Anna's home had started to circulate, making her feel exposed and judged. She wanted to flee, but Ian and several sturdy men disguised as security staff kept her under subtle surveillance. Neither she nor Ryan had any idea that this night was their final performance. The event began with the MC's opening remarks and a polished video montage of the company's achievements. Then it was Anna's turn. She walked onto the stage, taking the microphone as the lights dimmed. The room fell quiet. Thousands of eyes followed her every move. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice clear and resonant. "Tonight is more than a company anniversary. It's about truth. This company was built by my late father on a foundation of honesty and integrity. Recently, that foundation has been threatened from within by a parasite." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Anna's gaze shifted to Ryan. "I would like to introduce the man most ambitious in trying to advance or perhaps destroy this company, my husband, Ryan." Polite applause sounded as she gestured for him to join her. Ryan, stiff with dread, stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. He tried to steady his breathing. Maybe, he thought desperately, she wouldn't dare scandalize him in front of everyone. "Thank you, my dear wife," he began, forcing a charismatic smile. "I'm proud to stand here tonight. My vision is to make Kingsley Corporation a global market leader. I vow to work day and night, honoring my late father-in-law's legacy." Suddenly the ballroom went dark. The main lights shut off, leaving the room bathed in darkness. Only the massive projector screen behind them flickered to life, casting a stark glow across the stage. Guests gasped and whispered. Ryan turned, thinking this was some planned visual presentation. It was, but not the one he expected. The first image was a high-definition video feed, clearly from a hidden camera in Anna's living room. On the screen, Ryan and Zoe lounged on the sofa, laughing loudly, wine glasses in hand. Their voices boomed through the state-of-the-art sound system. "She's so easy to fool," Ryan's recorded voice rang out. "Just like her mother, weak. A little medication every day and she'll go properly crazy. Then we get everything. Stupid woman." Zoe's laughter followed. "But what if she catches on?" she asked, her recorded tone flirty. "Then we do what we did to her dad," Ryan replied nonchalantly. "Break failure, overdose, whatever. It's not that hard." Gasps and cries erupted throughout the ballroom. The atmosphere of elegance disintegrated into shocked chaos. Cameras that had been filming the gala now swung toward the screen and then back to Ryan's face, catching his horror in sharp detail. As the video continued, the images shifted. Scanned documents appeared, showing Ryan's fake ID, his real identity as Henry Bates, and records of crooked transfers, company funds siphoned to cover his gambling debts. Ryan staggered backward, dropping the microphone. It clattered loudly on the stage floor, echoing through the now silent hall. Hundreds of faces stared up at him, investors, executives, reporters, police officers. Anna stood at the side of the stage, expressionless. her eyes cold. This was an execution, not a warning. "It's all fake," Ryan screamed suddenly. "That's edited footage, deep fake, it's not real." Without a microphone, his voice sounded shrill and pathetic beneath the rising roar of outraged whispers and the snapping of camera shutters. He tried to push through the gathering reporters at the foot of the stage, but they swarmed him, shouting questions, blinding him with flashes. Across the room, Zoe panicked. Seeing Ryan exposed, she made a split-second decision to save herself. As security staff closed in, she pointed at him and shrieked, "He forced me! It was all his idea. He killed her father. I'm just a witness. I have proof. Don't arrest me. Arrest him." Her betrayal was sudden and vicious. Ryan looked at her as if she'd stabbed him. Their partnership imploded in public view. Desperate, Ryan spotted the emergency exit near the stage. He shoved reporters aside, striking whoever blocked his path, and bolted toward the door. But before he could reach it, a solid figure stepped into his way. Ian stood there with arms crossed, as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Going somewhere, Mr. CEO?" he asked coolly. "The party's just getting good." "Get out of my way, you bastard!" Ryan roared, throwing a wild punch at Ian's face. Ian caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted his arm behind his back, and pinned him against the wall in one smooth motion. Police officers, already positioned near the exits at Anna's request, surged forward and snapped handcuffs onto Ryan's wrists as he thrashed and cursed. On the other side of the room, Zoe fared no better. Despite her hysterical claims of victimhood, she was quickly restrained by female officers. The evidence against her in the conspiracy was overwhelming. That night, the company's anniversary gala became the most sensational arrest scene of the year. Anna remained on stage watching as the two people she had once trusted, in different ways, were hauled away like disgraced criminals. She didn't feel joy exactly, more a deep, tired relief. A massive weight began to lift from her shoulders. But she knew that wounded animals often strike hardest before they die. 2 days later, even as the scandal dominated newspapers and television, the legal system's cracks began to show. While the fraud and embezzlement evidence was strong, the murder case regarding her father required more forensic work, taking time. Using the last of his hidden funds and a ruthless lawyer, Ryan managed to secure temporary release on a high-value bond under house arrest conditions. An exaggerated heart condition and promises of cooperation convinced a judge to grant him citywide confinement instead of continued detention. Zoe, with far fewer resources, stayed behind bars. Her fury at Ryan grew, and she sang like a bird under interrogation, revealing every detail of his crimes, tightening the noose around him. Ryan was technically free, but his life was in ruins. All his assets were frozen, his penthouse and cars seized, and his glamorous friends blocked his number. He holed up in a grimy roadside motel at the edge of town, hiding from reporters and the loan sharks who had begun sniffing around. Shame, rage, and humiliation ate away at him. In his twisted mind, none of this was his fault. It was all Anna's. If only she had stayed naive and obedient, he thought, everything would have been fine. He convinced himself he was the true victim. One stormy night, rain lashed against the motel windows while lightning tore across the sky. It was as if the world were staging a backdrop for the story's final act. Ryan sat on the sagging bed, gulping cheap liquor. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled. On the table lay a homemade handgun he'd bought from the black market with the last of his cash. He wasn't planning to flee. He knew the airports were watched. He knew prison awaited him once all the investigations were complete. If he was going to be destroyed, he decided, he would drag Anna into hell with him. "You're not winning this," he muttered bitterly. "Never." He tucked the pistol into his jacket, pulled a black cap low over his face, and stepped out into the storm. At 2 a.m, Anna's house was dark and still, lit only by the faint glow of garden lamps. Security at the front gate had been tightened, but Ryan knew the property layout better than the new guards did. He scaled the rear wall, vines scratching his hands, carefully avoiding the visible security cameras. After all, he was the one who had originally installed them. For a time, those cameras had helped him watch Anna. Now their blind spots gave him a way in. He pried open a kitchen window with a small crowbar. The roar of thunder masked the sound of cracking glass. Dripping rainwater onto the polished kitchen floor, he crept into the house that he still felt should be his. The familiar scent of lavender air freshener made his hatred spike. He slipped toward the stairs on silent feet, heading for the master bedroom. Halfway through the living room, a bright light snapped on. Ryan squinted, startled. Ian sat in a single armchair, fully dressed, as if he had been there for hours. "I figured the sewer rat would crawl back to its old drain," Ian said calmly, his hand hovering near his hip. "Move. This is between me and my wife," Ryan snarled, drawing the gun with trembling hands. Ian rose slowly, hands raised to shoulder height. "It's over, Ryan. The police are already on their way. Zoe gave up your location. Don't make this worse." "To hell with you!" Ryan screamed. The gun fired. Ian dove behind the sofa. The bullet grazed his left arm, tearing through muscle. Blood spattered across the upholstery. The sharp crack of the gunshot jolted Anna awake upstairs. She rushed out of her room to the landing and looked down through the railing. "Ryan!" she cried, stunned, seeing him with a gun in his hand and madness in his eyes. Spotting his target, Ryan forgot about Ian. He dashed up the stairs, taking them two at a time. "Come here, Anna! We're going to die together!" he shouted. Terrified but not paralyzed, Anna avoided the instinct to barricade herself in the bedroom, a door he could easily break down. Instead, she ran toward the balcony attached to the master bedroom, a more open space with a clear view of the front yard. Ryan charged after her like a demon. Ian, clutching his bleeding arm, forced himself to his feet and stumbled after them. "Ryan, stop!" he shouted. Anna stepped out onto the balcony. The cold rain and wind slapped her face. She backed up until her shoulders hit the railing. The garden below looked far away in the darkness. There was nowhere else to go. The balcony doors stood open behind her, curtains fluttering wildly. Ryan burst through, breath ragged, gun aimed straight at her chest. "It's over," he hissed, advancing slowly, savoring the fear he thought he saw. "No more acting, no more cameras. You really thought you were smart? You're just a pathetic little girl hiding behind other men." Anna lifted her chin and met his gaze steadily. Rain slicked her hairline and soaked her hijab, hiding any tears that might have fallen. "I'm not the weak woman you met 2 years ago, Ryan," she said. "She died the moment she heard your voice on that recording. The woman standing in front of you now is your worst nightmare." Ryan barked a harsh, unhinged laugh. "Nightmare? You're nothing." He didn't finish the insult. Ian barreled into him from behind, slamming his injured body into Ryan's back. The two men crashed onto the slick balcony tiles. The gun flew from Ryan's hand and skidded across the floor toward a large potted plant. They grappled wildly, punching and clawing. Ian, trained and experienced, was still weakened by blood loss. Ryan, fueled by desperation and adrenaline, fought like a cornered animal, biting and scratching. With a vicious kick, Ryan struck Ian's wounded arm. Pain shot through Ian and his grip loosened. Ryan scrambled to his feet, dizzy but fixated on one thing, the gun. He staggered toward it, crawling the last few inches. Ian tried to get up but collapsed again, exhausted. "Run, Anna!" he shouted hoarsely. Anna didn't move. She saw Ryan's fingers closing around the gun grip as he began to raise it. She knew if she ran, Ian would be the one shot next. A surge of courage, drawn from months of suffering and every self-defense lesson Ian had drilled into her, flooded her veins. As Ryan pushed himself halfway upright, the gun still not fully ready, Anna charged. She didn't aim for his arm or the gun. She drove a powerful front kick straight into his solar plexus, all her weight behind her heel. The blow landed hard, knocking the breath from his lungs. At the same time, she shoved his shoulder with everything she had. On a dry floor, he might have kept his footing, but the slick tiles and his unsteady stance betrayed him. He stumbled backward, arms flailing. His heel slipped against the wet surface. For a fraction of a second, his eyes met hers, filled not with love, but with shock and hatred. Then his body tipped over the low balcony railing that he himself had insisted on, calling it modern and stylish. Gravity claimed him. "Anna!" he screamed as he fell. His body crashed onto the roof of Ian's car parked below, denting the metal with a sickening thud before rolling off onto the stone driveway. The gun went off once in the air, the bullet whizzing harmlessly into the night. Rain pounded the garden, washing blood into the soil. Silence followed, broken only by the patter of water. Anna stood rooted to the spot, chest heaving, staring down into the darkness. Ryan lay crumpled on the paving stones. He wasn't dead. The car roof had softened the impact, but his legs lay at a grotesque angle. He writhed and groaned, unable to stand. Ian staggered to Anna's side, gripping her shoulder for support. "You did it," he whispered. "You were incredible." Then, drained, he sank down again, leaning against the railing as sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights began to flicker against neighboring houses as police and an ambulance flooded the street. Officers stormed through the front gate, weapons drawn. They found Ryan crawling weakly through the muddy garden, dragging his broken body like a wounded animal. By the time Anna and Ian descended the stairs, Anna walking, Ian supported by medics, the scene outside was one of grim, efficient justice. Ryan lay face down on a stretcher, soaked, filthy, his leg bones clearly shattered through his trousers. A paramedic strapped him down while police officers snapped cuffs onto his wrists. From the doorway, Anna watched, sheltered under the porch roof as the rain eased into a mist. Ian's arm was bandaged quickly, though he refused to be taken away until he saw Ryan secured in the ambulance. The commander of the police unit approached Anna, saluted briefly, and confirmed that Ryan would be under strict guard at the police hospital before being moved to an isolation cell. There would be no more bail, no more second chances. The attempted murder of Anna and the shooting of Ian were enough on their own to guarantee a life sentence, not even counting the mounting evidence of other crimes. Before they loaded Ryan into the ambulance, Anna stepped forward. Ignoring the muddy puddles, she walked through the damp grass until she stood beside the stretcher. An officer moved to block her, then saw her face and stepped aside. She looked down at Ryan. His once handsome features were bruised and swollen, his eyes hollow. Slowly, Anna lifted her left hand, showing him the gold wedding ring that still shimmered faintly on her finger, the symbol of what had once been sacred to her. With deliberate care, she slid it off. She weighed the cool metal in her palm for a moment, then dropped it onto his chest. It clinked softly against the buttons of his shirt, yet in the hush around them, the sound seemed deafening. "Take it," she said, her voice calm and icy. "Consider it my last charity. You can sell it for cigarettes or instant noodles in the prison commissary, because from this moment on you'll never see a cent of my father's money. Your name is erased from our family's history." Ryan stared at the ring, then at her. He wanted to spit venom at her, to curse her, but his throat closed. In her eyes he saw something that made him feel as small as he truly was. Strength, not hatred. Power, not rage. This was no longer the orphaned girl he had groomed. This was a queen who had won her war. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, justice was catching up with Zoe. During her brief period of partial freedom before the new charges, she had tried to run. She used what was left of her hidden money to buy a ticket out of the country, attempting to slip through the airport with a stolen fake passport, a blonde wig, and oversized sunglasses. She didn't realize her face and fingerprints were already flagged in the immigration system. As she stepped into the automated passport gate, an invisible alarm triggered. Security officers swarmed almost instantly, surrounding her. She shrieked, kicked, and clawed at them, claiming she was pregnant, begging for mercy. Her performance didn't work. Cold metal cuffs locked around her wrists as travelers recorded the scene on their phones. Within minutes, videos of her arrest began to spread online, trending alongside clips of Ryan's public humiliation. The two conspirators who had thought they controlled everything were finally being dragged into the same abyss. Back at Anna's house, the ambulance carrying Ryan pulled away, escorted by police cars. The wail of sirens gradually faded into the distance, leaving behind a deep, damp quiet. The rain had stopped entirely now, replaced by a gentle drizzle. Anna stood in the driveway, watching the red taillights vanish at the end of the street. Ian, his arm wrapped in clean white bandages, walked up beside her. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing in the cool air. Anna turned to him. "Does it hurt a lot?" she asked softly, guilt flickering in her eyes. Ian gave a small, lopsided smile. "Not nearly as much as what you've gone through," he replied. "This will heal in a couple of weeks. Your heart, that's going to take longer, but you'll get there." Anna nodded, tilting her head back to gaze at the night sky. The clouds had begun to break, revealing a faint hint of moonlight. The immediate danger was over. Her enemies were in chains, but Ian was right. Recovery would be its own long journey. Still, for the first time in a long time, she could walk through her own house without fear of being poisoned or stabbed in her sleep. She inhaled deeply. The smell of wet earth rose from the garden, the scent of something washed clean, of new beginnings. 6 months later, the seasons had turned, and so had Anna's life. Justice, though slow, had finally arrived in the form of a judge's gavel striking the bench. The verdict in Ryan and Zoe's trial became the closing chapter in a saga that had gripped the nation. In a packed courtroom, Ryan sat slumped in a wheelchair at the defendant's table. His leg had never fully healed. He'd sabotaged his own recovery by refusing proper treatment and brawling with other inmates. His once polished face was gaunt, his eyes sunken, streaks of gray running through his hair. Next to him, Zoe sat pale and broken, stripped of the glamorous persona she once wore like armor. The most satisfying moment for the public, and for Anna, seated in the front row, came when the judge read the sentence. Both defendants were found guilty of premeditated murder of Anna's father, based on forensic evidence of the tampered brakes and financial records linking them to the hired mechanic. They were also convicted of attempted murder of Anna, fraud, embezzlement, and aggravated assault with a firearm. This court hereby sentences Defendant 1, Ryan, also known as Henry Bates, and Defendant 2, Zoe, to life imprisonment, the judge declared firmly. Ryan bowed his head as silent tears slid down his cheeks. Whether of remorse or self-pity, no one knew. Zoe erupted into a fit of screaming, cursing Ryan and the judge, until officers dragged her from the courtroom. They both lost everything: freedom, wealth, reputation, and whatever shreds of humanity they still had. They would spend the rest of their lives behind bars, rotting in the very darkness they'd tried to throw others into. Outside the courthouse, Anna walked out into the glare of reporters' cameras. This time, she didn't shy away. Dressed in a sharp blazer and a modern, stylish hijab, she looked every inch the executive she had become. She answered a few questions briefly, stating that her focus was now on steering Kingsley Corporation forward in honor of her parents. She was no longer a victim. She was a survivor and a leader. Under her guidance, the company flourished. She cleaned out all of Ryan's remaining allies from the management team and replaced them with honest professionals. She developed philanthropic programs in her parents' names. No one dared underestimate her again. The media began to refer to her as the Iron Lady, a title she had earned with blood and tears. One afternoon after work, Anna didn't drive straight home. Instead, she headed to a peaceful cemetery on the city's outskirts. The sky glowed a gentle purple gold as the sun began to set. Carrying 2 bouquets of fresh white lilies, she walked along a stone path until she reached 2 well-kept graves. Polished black headstones bore her parents' names. She knelt, laid the flowers down, and gently brushed a hand over the carved letters. "Mom, Dad, it's over," she whispered. "They've been punished. The company is safe. I'm safe. You can rest in peace. I promise I'll protect what you built." A soft breeze stirred the leaves, tugging at the edge of her scarf like a tender caress. Anna closed her eyes and let the quiet wash over her. She could almost imagine her parents smiling with pride. "They'd be very proud of you," a familiar baritone voice said from behind her. Anna turned and smiled. Ian stood a few steps away, no longer in his usual dark leather jacket and cap. He wore a light blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up and neat trousers. The scar on his arm was visible. a small permanent reminder of what they'd survived together. "Have you been here long?" she asked, rising to her feet. "Just got here," he replied, lifting a clear plastic folder. "I brought you this. Officially, your case is closed. You don't need a private investigator anymore." Anna accepted the folder but kept her eyes on him. "So this is goodbye?" she asked quietly. "Our professional contract is finished, right?" Ian hesitated, searching her face. The air between them felt different now, less charged with crisis, more fragile and human. Their working partnership might be over, but the bond forged in danger was not so easily severed. He scratched the back of his neck, a rare sign of nervousness. "Technically, yes," he said, "but I heard Kingsley Corporation is looking for a new head of security, someone trustworthy. And I happen to be thinking about a more stable job. I'm getting tired of sneaking around all the time." Anna laughed softly, a clear, free sound that he had rarely heard from her. "That's quite a coincidence," she teased, "but the job comes with tough requirements. My head of security has to be on call 24 hours a day, and they might have to join me for dinner sometimes on the weekends." Ian's smile broadened, softening the usual hardness in his features. "I think I'm qualified," he said, "especially for the dinner part." They stood side by side, watching the sun sink lower on the horizon. There were no grand declarations, no rushed proposals. Anna didn't want to repeat her mistake of giving her heart away too quickly. They agreed, without needing to say it out loud, to move slowly, step by step, building trust. But from the way Ian looked at her, and the way she felt safe in his presence, it was clear their paths would run alongside each other toward a brighter future. That night, Anna returned to her house, which finally felt like a home again. The atmosphere inside was calm, untainted by fear. She walked into the master bedroom, the same room where her nightmares had begun 6 months earlier. It had been completely redecorated. The walls were painted a light, soothing color, the furniture rearranged. There was no trace of Ryan left anywhere. She crossed to the new walk-in wardrobe and opened the door. Inside, her work clothes hung neatly in rows. No lurking strangers, no trembling bride hiding from her own husband. She remembered the terrified woman curled on that wardrobe floor, listening to the recording that shattered her world. That version of herself felt like someone from another lifetime. She opened a small box on her dressing table and took out a black business card. "Ian, private investigator." She smiled as she looked at it, then returned it carefully to its place. She wouldn't throw it away. It was a reminder of how far she had fallen and how she had climbed back up, stronger than before. Closing the wardrobe door with a firm click, she turned off the main light, leaving only the warm glow of the bedside lamp. She slipped into bed, pulled the covers up, and closed her eyes with a faint smile on her lips. For the first time in a very long time, she drifted into sleep without fear, ready to meet a tomorrow that finally belonged to her. The door to her past had shut. Beyond the new door opening before her, her real life was only just beginning.